everyone. Welcome to this episode of Data Epoch. We have Linck here with us today. Nick grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and currently lives in San Francisco, California, where he's building a new version of the college experience. Nick experienced college at the University of Michigan, where he studied computer science and data science. He went to school so that he could learn the technical skills necessary to one day start his own company. But rather than starting a company right after college, he worked at IBM doing machine learning research. The possibility of creating artificial general intelligence and a nice paying salary was too hard to turn down for the uncertain path of an entrepreneur. However, at IBM, he spent most of his time working on storage products rather than creating a computer that is as smart as a human. So 1 year ago, he quit his job to build a startup. During the last year, he thought a lot about the ideal environment for an entrepreneur. He realized college is a pretty ideal environment for this, minus the classes. This insight served as the original motivation for what is now called the Ryvin Residency, an alternative to college that gives young adults agency, opportunity, and community so that they can positively impact the world and build a life they love. So thank you, Nick, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Sanjana. Excited to be here.
So how and why did you get into the AI space?
Yeah, so like in the bio you said, I went to University of Michigan and studied computer science there. I took a freshman year class that was like introducing you to all the types of engineering. I knew that I wanted to do engineering because I wanted the skills to be able to build something, but what type of engineering I wasn't sure on. And when I learned about computer science and took my first programming class, this just seemed like the coolest thing. Building a mobile app and a website were really enticing to me because I did want to start a company one day. So I decided to go down the computer science route. And then I think after my sophomore year in college, I had an internship that was doing software development for this tax software. And it was such boring work. And I was like, I cannot do this for my career. Like, I have to be debugging and just writing random code. That's not interesting to me. I'm really not going to enjoy my life. So I was kind of questioning, like I was already in my sophomore year. I was like, I'm going down computer science. Is this what my life's going to be like? But then I learned about machine learning, and I don't remember the exact context I learned it in. Maybe it was introduced in one of my classes. But with machine learning, I was excited about the idea of making a computer as smart as a human. One of the majors I thought about enrolling in previously was psychology because to me the human brain is super fascinating and understanding how that works is just something that's unknown. So it's very relevant to everyday life. So the thought of understanding that better is super exciting for me. So I was like, oh, with machine learning, I can kind of combine my interest of psychology and computer science. So then got super excited about going down that route, and yeah, ended up taking a data science major as well because it was just a few extra classes for us in addition to the computer science courses. And I ended up doing some research at university where I was analyzing some NBA player tracking data. And yeah, that just, I guess, probably gave me the opportunity to get into AI as a career because I had some relevant experience. Um, so yeah, I guess that's kind of the main reasons of how I got into it.
Cool. Awesome. So tell us about your startup and your product vision.
Yeah, so right now we're building the Ryvin Residency, and it's an alternative to college for the aspiring entrepreneur. So right now, when the entrepreneur wants to go to or graduates high school, they have a few options. They could go to college, which is kind of the default life path that many people end up taking. And they could drop out and potentially have no support or join an accelerator, but those are really short. And there are programs like the Teal Fellowship, which give funding at least to people for multiple years, but it doesn't give you that college experience. So at the Ryvin Residency, we want to kind of combine all the great value adds of those types of programs. So we want to give the college experience by having or these students or residents, as we call them, live on or next to a college campus.
Mhm.
So this first year, we're planning to be in Berkeley in an apartment complex right next to the campus.
Cool.
Um, so that way they still get the college experience, but like an accelerator and like the fellowship, we don't have all the requirements of classes in college. So I've talked to a lot of different students over the last 4 months probably. And yeah, from those conversations, a lot of them really hate going to classes, which is kind of surprising to me because I enjoyed classes when I was in school. But they're not productive for them. They are able to learn just using like YouTube and online resources and tapping into their own networks that they've built. Um, so for us, it's like, okay, we don't need to hire a professor who should be doing research to teach these individuals. And that's kind of a big, exciting draw factor for me is that there's a lot of professors out there who don't necessarily want to be teaching. They want to be doing more research. And maybe they're not the best teachers compared to some of these content creators that are online already. So I think by like separating the role of the professor from research and teaching will be a more efficient process because then we can have professor or researchers dedicated to their craft doing research, and we can have teachers who are dedicated to their craft teaching the next generation of individuals a lot more easily than a typical researcher might. And yeah, with another part about the business that we're doing to make money, because we need to make money if we want this to sustain itself without relying on completely other people's funding. Um, we are doing a model where we're taking equity in any company that the residents start during their residency. So if they start a company where the exact amount of equity is probably going to be around 9%. Um, and yeah, that way we can make the tuition free at first by relying on initial funding.
Mhm.
And then hopefully we can, if we have a few successful entrepreneurs, that will pay for the program for everybody else. And in the long run, we do want to expand to more people besides just aspiring entrepreneurs. Um, and yeah, I have lots of thoughts about that. Kind of the new business model there would be an income shared agreement where it's still free when you come in, but like when you're working for a company and getting money or like a salary from that company, we would take a portion of that until you pay back your tuition.
Got it. Yeah, cool. So, how do you apply AI in this space?
Yeah, so one of the like I guess lowest hanging fruit or like first thoughts um, is for candidate selection.
Mhm.
So right now in the universities, there's like I was just reading an article the other day. Some universities are getting rid of test scores and requiring that on the resume, and it's supposed to help give um, more applicants an opportunity or like a more diverse applicant pool to get accepted. Um, because some people kind of like have a lot of tutors and to do well on the tests. And these college admission individuals are struggling to figure out what criteria they should be using to end up selecting individuals.
Mhm.
And yeah, part of that is because it's like, okay, if they're judging on extracurriculars, that's still kind of a sign of privilege. Like if your parents were able to afford you to go to like science camp. Um, so they haven't quite figured it out. There's someone named Tyler Cohen who's wrote a book on spotting talent, and his mentality is really understand the student and what their interests are and like how deep those interests go. So for instance, if they're really interested in Star Wars, probe questions about them. It's like, oh, why do you like Yoda? And if he's like, oh well, he's just super cute, like, and that's the only rationale, that's like one level of depth, I guess, to their thinking. But if they're like, oh, well, I think Yoda, he embodies the symbolism of wiseness when he speaks about this. I love his philosophies on how you should act in life. Then it shows a little bit more thought to a little bit more depth to their thinking. So those people who have that deeper range of thinking generally think about problems more fully and would probably be better at whatever task that they're doing. So that's kind of like one metric that we'll be looking for in our selection process. And I don't want to talk too much about what our selection process will be because um, I've heard stories of people, once they say what kind of applicants they're looking for, then the interviewees kind of just play to that role rather than being themselves.
Mhm.
So with AI here, we want to collect a lot of data in our first rounds of interviews. So in addition to like the interview that we have and the application that we send out, we'll also want to do personality tests,
Mhm.
which we determine if that actually plays a factor into how successful someone will be in the program. Um, will be up to see. But yeah, I think with the video data, with the application, and potentially with this personality test, then we could train AI to be selecting individuals for us. Um, Tyler Cohen also mentioned that. Um, yeah, Tyler Cohen also mentioned that Harvard and these like prestigious schools, instead of going through this tough application process, they should set some bare minimum and then just pick people at random after that because it's really not going to do you much better because everyone is somewhat similar. So I think this is like an area where AI could do better than random, and then in that scenario, it's like, cool. Now we've saved ourselves time for the selection process, and hopefully, if we train AI properly, it's not too biased of a process.
Yeah, we'll have to look at your ROC curve to see how better it is than random.
Yeah, very true.
So you just spoke about uncovering layers or depth of students, and then taking it from there. So what is your plan to upskill these people?
Yeah. So there's kind of two requirements that we have from these students because we don't require that they do classes, which would be the typical upskilling process. We really rely on the students' self-motivation to guide their learning experience.
Hmm.
But everyone can only be so self-motivated. It helps to have some external factors to help push you so that you continue to grow.
Hmm.
So the two requirements that we have are that you're working towards a project-based goal and a skill-based goal at all times. So a project-based goal would mean that it's something that has an impact larger than yourself. So it could be a company, it could be like course material, could be a podcast, could be helping out your brother. Who knows? But it helps someone more than just yourself. And the skill is where it's like leveling up your own mind. And that's kind of traditional schooling. It's like I'm learning physics so that I can understand physics and then go do something eventually, maybe. So we think both of those have a lot of value. And um, yeah, to support them in this, one, we have a coach. So every week, the resident meets with a coach, and the coach kind of serves as a career coach
Hmm.
where they're not necessarily giving too much advice, but they're questioning the resident. Um, so there's this GROW model, it's called, for coaching. And in that model, it's an acronym. G, as you say, goals. So, like at the beginning of the meeting, the coach asks, all right, what do you want to accomplish this week? Um, the resident goes over that mindset. You might probe them deeper. Why do you want to accomplish that? What's the motivation behind it? And make sure that they're like thinking through things clearly and have good intention. The R is for reality check.
Hmm.
So, okay, where are you at currently? What are your current obstacles? What have you tried so far? And then options is like, all right, so what potential things can you do? And here you try to probe them a little deeper as well. Like, have you considered anything else? What are the benefits of that? Why not that? And so it really helps them think through their process and making sure they're doing the best path possible for themselves to reach their goals. And then the W is a will. So, like, what are you going to actually do this week? And that hopefully will give them accountability and some external motivation to actually achieve their goal. And if it is a free program, so we don't want people to take advantage of that. So if the coach determines that they're not making meaningful progress on their goals, they could drop them out of the program.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's kind of one aspect, and there's a lot more. We'll also have the peers doing an accountability check. We have mentors that they can access, so that if they need a particular expert on a certain topic, they have someone that they can call up. We offer them grants if they need to take their project to the next level. And also for the skill learning, we have a structure where they're working with a peer to learn a skill and a new skill every 30 days. Or well, a skill every 30 days. It could continue being the same one if they want to keep progressing at one skill in particular. And there's like Richard Feynman has a technique to learn anything, and it's essentially like try to explain the topic to some like a 5-year-old right now, see where knowledge gaps are, then try to fill them in. So that methodology combined with like feedback and self-reflection is kind of a process that we're developing right now to help these students during their skill process.
Got it. Is sort of AI or data science, one of these skills they'll have to keep developing? What do you think?
That's one they could choose, definitely. So I have a tab of like resources essentially that they can access for particular topics, and
Mm-hmm.
AI is one of the ones I started developing. Um, but yeah, we won't require them to work on any specific skills. Um, yeah, there's potentially like goal setting and understanding the coaching mindset. That would just be like a week, like an orientation or something. But beyond like a week of courses, everything will be pretty much up to the student to decide.
Cool. Awesome. So, what are your future plans in this area?
Yeah, and definitely want to scale this like to all over the world. Um, I think it's a great model that will really allow people to find their passions because I think there's a lot more opportunity for exploration in this model where you're not stuck to one major for 4 years, potentially getting in debt and then needing to work at a job in that major for like the next 10 years to pay off that debt. Um, so I think with this model, we can get people to explore and find their dream passions or their dream life and yeah, start living that right after high school. Um, so I think this mentality will be great for society. We'll have a lot more happy, productive people. Um, so I definitely want to scale this as much as possible. We're definitely going to start off slow so that we like make sure we're actually developing a program that is helpful for people and is better than college because that is kind of our benchmark right now. And we don't want to make a program worse than college and spread that to the world. So yeah, that's kind of the plan. And as far as expanding it into people besides aspiring entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
um, one aspect that I'm really excited about is DAOs. So like crypto companies, if you have heard of them before, DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. I got into those a lot over the last year. Um, and like whether or not cryptocurrencies will become the new medium for equity essentially and for voting power inside of companies. Hopefully your readers have or listeners have some context there, but not too important. But the culture of DAOs is the important aspect that I think will stay.
Mm-hmm.
And really the culture, one aspect about them that's super interesting is they have open task boards, meaning anyone can start working on tasks for the company. without even needing to apply to the company. So that means who's a high schooler, doesn't have a degree or even any experience doing website design could try a task at website design for a legitimate company, um, and gain skills while actually working on a real world problem. Um, and in that model, the DAO doesn't actually pay the student unless like their work gets accepted. So for the DAO, it's really no downside. Um, and with this model, the DAOs do have onboarding teams who essentially serve as like the teacher for these individuals coming in. So I think that will dramatically change the future of education and work, where people really don't need to go to college to get experience at real good paying jobs. So in that model right now, it's all pretty remote work. So I think that for us, like we want that human connection. We want, especially after being 18, we want a new experience, meeting new people, living away from our parents. So I think that college experience, that social network that you get in college is still super valuable and something that we should make sure future generations have. So with Ryvin, kind of the long-term future of this is that now once we start accepting people who don't want to be an entrepreneur but just want to work for a company. We introduce them to the different DAOs that we think are best. If they're into AI, we recommend them the AI DAO. If they're into design, we recommend them the design DAO. And the cool thing about these DAOs too is you don't have to commit to one. It's very fluid. You can like work on multiple DAOs at a time. You can work for one for a day and then leave. So there's a lot of exploration that can be done in this process. And in that scenario, we would still provide these individuals with an in real life experience and coaching and peer learning, so that they can still level up themselves and build stuff that's exciting to them. But they are, yeah, given the opportunity to work on real world problems.
Cool. Awesome.
Kind of the future of that project, at least.
Cool. Very cool. Okay. Thank you, Nick, for sharing your journey with Ryvin and your passion for AI. I'll be linking to Ryvin Residency as well as to Nick Linck if anyone is interested in exploring more. Thank you very much.